AfterBuzzers. We are so excited to be talking about Homecoming tonight, and we are going to talk about the first few episodes in this thrilling 10-part Amazon series, and everything tonight's going to be about the mysteries we have lurking, the brains behind the show, and Julia Roberts' return to TV. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Walking down the Guys, of course we have to play Pretty Woman in honor of Miss Julia Roberts. Welcome to the Homecoming After Show. As always, I am Leslie Powers. I am joined by my wonderful panel.
Hey guys, I'm Archie J.
Hi guys, I'm Carolina Benetti.
Hi everyone, I'm Heather Geisler.
And we are so excited to all be together. These ladies and I were on Sharp Objects together, so it's a little reunion, and we're so excited to have Archie as well. So we are going to dive into the show, and later on, don't forget to join us. We have a special segment called Social Hero, where we're going to honor a social worker who works with veterans, and tonight that is Elizabeth J. Clark. And we have some news and gossip about Sam Esmail, who directs all 10 episodes, and Julia Roberts, along with some swag that Heather picked up that we are going to show you all pictures of. And for you podcast listeners, we will describe the pictures to you. So this is obviously a jam-packed 10-part series. It is thriller. It moves that way. It feels that way. That is the intent of the show. I want to know your initial thoughts. The first few minutes in, you were like, what is up?
My mind was exploding. I mean, so tense immediately in, and it immediately gave me the feel of like a 1970 kind of vibe of thriller suspense, and I really appreciated the cinematography of it. I mean, the whole like widescreen to square, but I mean, I loved it because it gave what thrillers and mysteries don't do. It gave just enough. It wasn't like overthinking it and overdetermined, so I was all here for it.
Yeah.
The cinematography took me a minute. I literally, my TV is so big that I thought something was, I was like, oh my God, my TV broke. What's wrong with this screen?
Oh my
and I was trying to fix it. I thought there was something wrong. So once I got past that and her wig, I really got into the storyline.
Leave her wig alone.
I hated it, but it worked for her character. But anyways, what I really liked about the cinematography, like opening it up, was how it kind of almost felt like a throwback to Alfred Hitchcock.
Yep.
Like the way Birds and like Psycho was filmed, where you only are getting like bits and pieces of the story. I really liked that. And that kind of made me even more interested in what was going to happen next, because I liked that you didn't really know what was lurking around the corner.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, I definitely, I loved the look immediately, and I was very interested in these characters and, of course, what her exact job was going to be, and who Walter was, who Thomas was, and just lost my train of thought. So what I was going to say is, I was like, okay, I'm either going to really love this show or it's going to really go downhill. I was like, it could go either way, but it got me. It hooked me, so.
Yeah, I felt like it was either going to like creep along too slowly for me.
Right.
Or it was just going to be like way too out there in space, where it was just like, this is not believable at all.
I was going to say, like, opening into it, in case people watching don't know, it's actually based on an actual podcast. It's a fictional podcast, but it's an actual podcast. And I love listening to Serial. When I found out that Homecoming was also based on a similar type podcast, I was really hyped for it. I have not yet listened to the podcast, but now I don't know if I want to.
I know.
Because I've seen the show.
Yeah.
I feel like I wish I had watched it before and then watched the show, but I am very interested, especially because the guys that created the podcast also wrote and executive produced Homecoming.
Yeah, and they said that the second half of the podcast is much different from the second half of the show. Sam Esmail didn't want it to be verbatim what they did on the podcast.
Oh, got it.
But it was a great inspiration, obviously.
Yeah.
And thank you for bringing that up, because I didn't have to. So
Teamwork.
So yeah, it's based off a podcast, and then Sam Esmail, as the creator of Mr. Robot, I don't know if any of you watched the show. I watched the first 2 seasons, and then I was like, my brain's gonna
It's a lot.
explode.
Yeah.
But he uses a lot of similar styles. What we're talking about with the aspect ratio going from the full screen to the not really 4:3, but the box. And he did.
I think it's 16.9 ratio.
Is that what it is? He did it on purpose, because what I read is that he, in the future storyline, which we will get to, distinguishing that we're in present day and future, he wanted it to be as if Julia Roberts' character isn't getting all the information. Like, she doesn't see the whole picture. And, until later on when things start to happen a little bit more and she starts to, know what's going on. But
that was a very interesting point for me.
Yes.
I was like, I gotta know why.
Yeah.
I gotta know why he did this. So,
I noticed, like for the first episode, as she's walking to her desk, you see there's like an homage to, hey, the little square idea of the cinematography was going to come when she sat down at her desk. This is like very quick, but she sat down at her desk and there was like curtains outlining the whole square, and then it came along, so that was very cool.
Yeah, everything you see is very deliberate, especially there's hexagons everywhere. And the production designer said that's because she wanted it to be like a broken circle that the pieces weren't quite fitting. So if you really look hard, you can see all of that. So
I thought of it as like worker bees. They're
I
just
love
part
that.
Of this
That's great.
hive. Yeah,
That's
all
really
doing
cool.
their little job for the queen.
for the queen bee.
What I liked is
Geist.
that
Queen Geist.
what I liked about getting into it is that because it's only half an hour long for each episode, there's no like runoff characters that have like a whole separate storyline happening, which I feel can really drag a lot of stories down when they take you away from the main plot point.
Sure.
I felt like everything that happens is towards one big idea. And I like that they set the tone, and that continues throughout the series as we watch it, which was nice.
That's a
Absolutely.
great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So I want to get into the two different storylines that we do have. To set it up is there's basically, we're in present day. We're at this facility called Homecoming with Julia Roberts' character, Heidi Bergman. And she has, these veterans coming in who are trying to transition from war to home. And you don't really know what's going on. Everything's a little weird and sterile and hexagony and square. And you're like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And then there's a future storyline where your screen gets a little smaller. And there's an investigation going on with a DOD officer, Thomas Carrasco. And he goes to find Heidi Bergman and her future lifestyle, I guess you could say, where she's a waitress. So it's I was like, what's happening? I was like, this is either the past or the future. I couldn't really
At
figure
first, I
out
thought it was the past, and then I
where we
realized,
were.
oh wait, we're in the future.
I also thought it was the past.
And it was set in 2018. Well,
And
Homecoming, and then
2022.
4 years. Okay, yeah.
4 years
Yeah.
ahead. So that's kind of the setup of the show. You don't know much. What I really liked was all of the stuff with the animals and the palm trees and everything that was going on with like the Floridian part of it was really interesting to me. And later on, one of the vets tries to act like he doesn't think they're in Florida, which I thought was really interesting.
Well, because he knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
I felt like he picked up on the idea that something was wrong. So he was a little bit wrong, but not really. Like he was right that something wasn't right.
His idea was far-fetched at the wrongness is how I would. But when he had this whole connotation, this idea of what was happening, I believed him as a viewer. Because there's so much going on, and it does seem odd that they're here at this place. They don't really know why, and when are they gonna get out? This whole situation. So I was like, I think he's right.
I mean, after he jumps on the table in the like common kitchen area, dining room, they locked his door at night.
Yeah.
They weren't allowed off the premises to go get a beer.
It's like jail.
And then they get out of there, I wasn't even sure they got out of the actual compound because they were driving in like this weird box as like the drone shot pulls away, and I was like,
Yeah.
Are they
Are
gonna
they
get
trapped?
out?
Well,
Yeah.
Schreier mentions like this could all be a setup. Like all of this, it doesn't have to be real. Like they could still be, playing us or whatever. And I did like that they were actually in Florida because like I believed him that he's like, we're not in Florida. I thought, oh my God, wow, that's kind of genius. They're not in Florida. But then I liked that it wasn't that, you know, it didn't go too overboard.
Did anyone else get a Truman Show vibe?
Yes.
I was like,
wrote
oh
that
my
down.
God,
Yeah.
yes.
I was like, Schreier thinks he's in the Truman Show.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like he wasn't that far off though, because then after that breakout happens within, I think it's that episode or the third one as we go into it, you see that they're being administered medication in their food.
Yeah.
They want to double the dosage. I feel like everything is so like standard issue, which if you really were working with people with PTSD and like veterans who are used to such uniformity, why would you tell them that they're transitioning into a civilian lifestyle by putting them in kind of like a colony where everything is like to military standards, in the sense everybody has the same bed sheet, the same lamp, the same room, the same space, the same like it makes it far-fetched for any kind of recovery.
I think that was on purpose, though. I think
Yeah.
they wanted to not shock them into civilian life. I think they wanted to put them in something that was routine because their meals were mandatory, their sessions with Heidi or whomever, and then their workshops with Alex Karparsky's character, who from Girls, who I love, was all like they had to be there. And I think that's because they were coming from somewhere so sterile and regimented that they couldn't go right into civilian life without
No, but
something.
they put them right back into sterile and regimented. Like, that's not going to help anybody move forward.
Yeah.
So that right there kind of gives it away as a big facade for something else. I felt watching
That's a
it.
good point. So we've talked about Joseph Schreier, who is played by the wonderful Jeremy Allen White, who we love from Shameless.
He's all right.
He's awesome.
Stop that.
And then Walter Cruz, played by is it Stefan or Steven? Because it's spelled with an A. I don't know if anyone looked that up.
I don't know. I think it's Steven.
Well, if you're in the live chat, we do have a live chat going with Heather. We'd love to hear your
Yes.
thoughts on the show. So if anyone's in there and knows how to properly pronounce, if it's Steven or Stefan or Stefan.
I'm watching. Please comment.
yes.
Say hi.
So he plays Walter Cruz, who's kind of our main veteran. And then Heidi Bergman, played by Julia Roberts. And then we have the boss, played by Bobby Cannavale, who I could watch all day long, just do nothing but talk on the phone.
Really?
I'm sorry. I was shaking my
was
fist at
so
him
great.
the entire time. I was like,
I was so angry at him.
Good.
But isn't he an extremely entertaining actor? Don't
He's
you
a
agree with
very
that?
entertaining actor, but I was so unsettled by him and his whole character. And,
And
then
he did his job.
He did.
Yes.
he did his job.
He did his
Good job to you. And then there was the scene when he was, where was he, in China?
I'm thinking it's China or just somewhere
China?
like that. I don't remember.
Where they was Julia Roberts' character was on the phone with him, and he was over there in like some type of laboratory, and they were cleaning off supplies, which looked like they were going to send it back to maybe this homecoming place. So it threw me for a loop.
Well, what's interesting about the phone calls is that Bobby Cannavale's character and Julia Roberts' character never are in the same place at the same time, and that's indicative of the podcast because it's all based on phone calls. So they kept that element for that reason.
But here's what I will say that I really liked about Bobby Cannavale's character is he actually reminded me of Ari Gold from Entourage. The energy, like the manic, possessive, commanding energy. And I noticed that in every single shot that they did of him, he's never paying attention to Heidi. Ever. He's on the phone. His daughter's painting cat whiskers on him. Like you said, he's like in a thing.
Yeah.
He misses it. Like he's always got his attention divided, and he doesn't listen to what Heidi's saying to him. It's like he has his own agenda. He makes up his mind, and he's talking at her, not talking with her or to her. It's just like a bounce back situation, because especially on the one where he was like playing golf in the birthday party, I thought you saw it the most. The golf really, because he even turns his back to her on screen, and I felt like that created such a divide between what she's trying to communicate and how she's trying to move these people forward under the pretenses that they've given her, and he's got his own agenda, and he's like, I feel like that shot right there when his back was to her and she's trying to communicate showed more than anything he's just gonna bulldoze over anything that she wants.
Well, he's the slick character. He's the big boss, and we don't know much about him in these first few episodes. We just know that he's running the show.
I will say I didn't like him.
Yeah.
His character. I loved his acting.
Yeah.
I didn't like his character.
But I don't think you're supposed to like him at all. I think you're supposed to feel like he is kind of suppressing her in a way, but he's also trying to be a team with her. Like, doesn't it feel like he's like, we're supposed to be on the same team. What are we doing for these guys? And you're kind of like, what are they doing for these guys? Because we don't know anything yet. So you just kind of wonder, how bad is he of a bad guy? Or is he got any human elements to him whatsoever?
And is he just doing his job?
Is he just doing his job for his boss, who it seems that he has people above him at this big corporation that is running this whole thing? And then we have Thomas Carrasco, played by Shea Wingham, and he is trying to investigate something in the future. There was a complaint at the homecoming facility about something with Heidi and Walter Cruz, played by Stephen James. So that's kind of the two storylines that are going on, is Heidi saying in the future, I don't remember being at this homecoming, and then us seeing her at homecoming, we're like, but you were there, so what's happening?
Yeah.
Well, that made me think immediately that she was drugged.
Yeah, it was like somebody erased something.
Well, I thought she was lying at first, and then till I realized, oh wait, no.
Yeah.
It was like, she'd be a good liar.
The drugs.
Yeah, I
She'd be
think
one
that
hell
they
of a
were
liar.
drugging her as well.
I knew it had to do something with the drugs because there was a scene where Walter's character in like episode 1 or 2 where they actually took him to like a doctor's office in Homecoming and gave him like a pill, and then he asked a question And then the doctor was just like, just take it. It's on the form.
It's on the form.
But we find out they're placebo pills.
They're real
which is
medicine.
so crazy. I was like, oh, so smart.
Yeah.
Well, what is also smart is all of our other after shows, and Carolina's going to tell us a little bit more about them.
Yes. Hey, AfterBuzzers. Our network produces after shows for nearly all your favorite TV shows. From drama, reality TV, sci-fi, and more, there is no network that works harder to serve television fans. But we need your help. So we're asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. By subscribing to our channel, YouTube will suggest content that's tailor-made for you, and you'll help AfterBuzz continue to grow. So if you're worried about pesky notifications, don't be, because they're optional. So hit the subscribe button now for this channel and check out all our other AfterBuzz YouTube channels as well. Let us know you did so in the comments, and we'll thank you on air. For now, thanks for being the best fans and for helping us be the ESPN of TV talk.
Yay! Thank you guys. Is there anyone in the live chat you want to give a shout out to?
Well, we have some people watching. Thanks everyone for watching. Definitely comment if you have any comments for us, and let us know what you think.
Yes, please do. So I want to move on to this Heidi and Walter relationship, because I feel like in these first few episodes we get a little sense of something naughty is going on. What did you guys think immediately when you started feeling a little weird about them?
I was just waiting for the sex scene. I was like, it's going to come. It's happening, and I'm preparing myself mentally for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I did like their dynamic. It was cool, but it was definitely interesting. And I don't know, I felt like he was maybe going to like force himself on her.
Interesting.
Like when she goes into his room or something.
Yeah. So it was, I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought he was crazy from that one conversation that they had about the bird. Remember, there's that weird endangered bird that's like, rah,
Yeah.
and they can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. And he's like, I can kill it. And then it stopped making noise. And he's like, see, I killed it with my mind. And I was like, he's crazy.
Run.
I was like, run, jump out the window right now, Julia, don't do it.
I always went back and forth between, like, is this romantic? Is she just being nice? Like, what is he just being nice? Like,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes people are just flirty with each other.
No.
but
After the bird scene, I was like, he is so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we all could tell that it wasn't just friendship, right? Or
Yeah.
it wasn't just like a professional therapist vet relationship.
Right, there was
that
at
obvious.
least a friendship that was formed.
Especially when it got to episode 2 with Titanic Rising.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So they have these sessions. Heidi has to record these sessions between her and Walter, and her whole purpose and what you know, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's she wants to get this like tactic memory out of him, something that he can almost like see and touch, and something very vivid to him. So he starts talking about the story about some vet, you know, guy he was stationed with who became friends with. Lesky tells this other more gullible guy, Benji, I think is his name, that there's another Titanic movie. And so when they were sharing, I feel like when he was sharing that story, which I think this actor is so wonderfully like warm and charming, and I mean, he's amazing, but he definitely like hooked her. I feel like he had her laughing. And I was like, oh, he has her laughing.
He got her like to show personality opposed to like her at-home boyfriend that she was just really not that into.
Yeah, we haven't touched on Anthony yet.
Yeah, but I thought that's why she was gravitating a little bit more to Walter and his whole character, because he was just giving her a little bit more.
Yeah, he was showing her a little attention.
Yeah.
And she liked it. We saw you liking it, Julia. We saw that. And also, what's interesting is that Schreier and Walter were also stationed together, and so he definitely talks very highly of him, almost like he has to take care of him.
Yeah.
So I feel like when they do escape the facility and go on their roundabout and end up at this retirement home, when he's trying to prove that they're not in Florida, that's when it's like Schreier's crazy and Walter's the like golden boy, so to speak. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that. Schreier got kind of ousted after that.
I thought that Walter was calculated crazy. I had already like pitched myself on that
You were
shelf.
in that.
Yeah.
I never thought
After
that.
the bird thing, when he's like, I did it with my mind, I was like, he is a serial killer crazy.
I thought that was like a nice little
With
flirting
all
tactic.
capital letters.
Little flirting tactic. If somebody said that to
I
you,
just killed something in my mind, I'd be like, check. Immediately. Like, I'd be out of there so fast.
Yeah.
It'd be like flash, like, poof, There's just a puff of smoke.
You're
left
done.
behind.
You're
They're
done.
like, "Where'd
Okay.
she
Well,
go?"
I thought it was interesting that that was kind of when Schreier and Walter's paths definitely, separated. But Colin wanted both of them gone, and Heidi fights for Walter to stay.
Yeah, she thinks that she can make progress with him. She thinks she's getting somewhere with him, and that he is a good candidate for whatever they're trying to do with this program. Which at the core of it, supposedly they're trying to help them get into civilian life.
You know what, though? I thought the other guy was a better candidate, the one that he got rid of, because after he went through his episode and he realized he really was in Florida, I feel like he would have been gung-ho about
Trying to
being
get better.
open. Yeah, about being open-minded and doing the program. And I just thought that this just helped Walter's psychosis.
Yeah, and they talk around a lot in these first few episodes about their dosage and how they're getting medicine through food. And Colin mentions, like, did you get background checks on the kitchen workers?
Right.
And so you kind of know they're doing something to either help them cope or not help them cope with what they're going through. And so I thought that was well done with the stuff in China. And they had
I think it was Thailand.
Was it Thailand?
Was it Thailand?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the boxes that we see filled later on that go to the lab with the weird little red fruit things,
Yeah.
they're from Thailand.
Okay. So we just know something is strange going on. We know that Schreier is getting a little ousted because he kind of has this manic episode. And Walter continues to have this flirty relationship with Heidi. So you wonder, like, is Heidi fighting for him because she likes him and wants to keep him around? Or does she really think that he deserves the best care or whatever they're trying to
I just
give
thought she was
him?
into him. I thought they had like a weird connection.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do we ever see her in a session with anybody else?
No.
No.
Just
No.
Walter,
That's interesting.
right? Yeah.
That's an interesting
Because
point.
I
We
would
don't.
have liked to have seen what her demeanor was with
But I
one or the other.
feel like when they did those mock sessions with Craig.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, the interview thing.
That kind of showed us that everybody else was a little bit more closed off to receiving information and help. You know, there was jokes and everything, and Walter would always kind of like give in to the mock trial, help the guy out, but then he punched him in the face, like that kind of thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, God. This show is so intense.
a whirlwind.
It's a whirlwind. So I want to talk about Anthony real quick before we get to the future storyline again. So Anthony played by Dermot Mulroney, which on the way here, I Say a Little Prayer for You came on my radio, which reminds me of my best friend's wedding that they were both in together. So I thought that was so interesting.
That could have been our opening next week, guys.
Next week.
Little prayer for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. Theme song.
Yeah.
All right.
Mood.
So Anthony kind of comes and goes in these first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
That's
Felt
kind of
bad
it
for
for him. I did too. I was like, what's the point of him? But
He was kind of redundant.
Well, yeah, and he kind of, I guess he had moved with her to help her get adjusted to this new job in this new part of Florida. And she doesn't ever want to talk to him about anything.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't want to talk to you about my job. And every time Colin calls her, Bobby Cannavale's character, she's just like, peace out. So what do you guys think about the purpose of his character?
I thought the breakup scene where he says to her that you've changed and become a whole different person, and then the subsequent scene where she talks about the dosage being in the food, my immediate thought was, girl, you're getting drugged. That's why that's the only thing that makes sense, because people don't do a 180 in personality turns like that unless they're like addicts, or they're having like a mental break, or they're being like medicated with like psychosis type drugs.
Yeah.
So that to me was a red flag that something was happening to her, which I think then leads into the future episodes with her not recalling.
Yeah, and then when she meets up with him in the future, she's kind of asking him, like, how was I at that time when we were together? And, like, what kind of happened? And I think he finds that strange.
I feel like he was just to like be an asset to her character, to kind of show that, you know, and I don't think that she was drugged. I just felt like he was there to show that she's stressed and all she cares about is her job. So he was definitely feature character to me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I thought that, I mean, sometimes she just didn't like him. She wasn't interested in him. And I think why she just didn't need to treat him nicely because she didn't care about him, and honestly she wanted the breakup to happen. So I don't think it was drug induced either.
And that's real too. It happens in a relationship.
Right.
Sometimes you just you're over it.
You might feel bad later, but I was like, oh dang, I just really didn't like that person. Like
I feel
we
like
were
she
not good
used
together.
him. I just feel she used him. She's kind of like, help me move, and then I don't really need you.
I imagined he was just like, let me do this for you, and she's like, okay, fine, come.
Well, because she was kind of a shell of a person in those first few episodes. You kind of don't, in the future scenes, you're like, okay, you're a waitress. you're clearly not with this person anymore. You live with your mom, played by the amazing Sissy Spacek. Even her few scenes in this whole 10 episodes were phenomenal. And she seems to just not really have a purpose or a reason to be anywhere. So I think, he was just kind of a featured character to show like her behavior and how she behaved during this and after this to some unknown person. So I want to go back to the future storyline because this is how everything starts to unfold on the like Hitchcock thriller, field, is with Thomas Carrasco working for the DOD and having this complaint saying one of the vets wanted to leave this facility and he wasn't allowed to. And so he tries to hunt down Heidi and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So did you guys really think that, I mean, Carolina seems to be, obviously, you were like, bingo from the get-go, she was drugged, but did you think she was just totally just lying to him, did not have any legal
No, I did
issues?
think she was lying. I didn't realize how far the drugs had gone, but I thought they were experimenting on her personality, not her mind. I didn't realize that she was being given like memory drugs until it becomes apparent later on. I think in episode 3 is when it becomes really apparent. Right?
Sorry, not to interject.
No.
I don't think that at all. I think the only time she takes the drugs, in my opinion, is in the end when she takes them voluntarily.
Same. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I thought they were drugging her.
No.
You're so on the drug.
No, I think she was more sipping the Kool-Aid of Geist and Common.
But I
and
think
all
when
that
the
in
reporter
general.
comes in the future and asks her, I just thought she was lying.
Okay, that's what I was
I
wondering.
agree.
I agree with
up
that.
to episode 3 because
Yeah.
I know we've all binged it, but I'm saying my point of view up to that point was that she was being drugged without her knowing it up to episode 3.
That's what you thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before you knew more.
Before I knew more. And because I thought that she was lying to him, I didn't realize that her memory had been affected until things didn't start to add up.
Yeah.
Like the scene with Sissy Spacek and she's talking to her mom and her mom's like, what are you talking about? And
She's like, I didn't fall. Like, I fell after you got
you were here.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when things started to not add up.
I thought she was definitely in denial, like lying to avoid the situation because she knew of the trauma that happened there. So she was just trying to get him out of her face.
That's what I thought too, that she was more just like, I don't want to remember more than I don't.
Right.
Right.
Like, I just don't want to go back to any of this. I don't want to be involved with whatever's going on. Yeah.
She was just
I
kind
was
of
more
telling.
cutthroat in my opinion. I
Yeah.
thought she was just lying.
Yeah.
Like straight
Well,
up.
I think
Right.
the whole series, and especially his first few episodes, you kind of get that she's telling herself what she thinks that she should like be told. She's kind of just telling herself lies and not telling herself, not letting herself get further into the truth.
Because it's scary to think, like, if you start realizing, I don't remember actually, like, what is the truth? Why would you want to go down that path? That's so scary.
Yeah, it's so scary. It's like, if you black out drunk and, you're like,
What did you do?
like where, that's just, that goes down a whole other situation. So with Thomas, his job is basically to take a complaint like this and to either elevate it or dismiss it. And he wants to elevate this despite his boss, played by, I can't remember her name, but her name in the show is Pam.
Yeah,
And
Pam.
she's kind of like, you don't have anything to go on. But he has this hunch after meeting Heidi. He's like, something is wrong. And I don't know if you guys love the scene as much as I did when he goes to like find files on Heidi.
Yes.
And it's like,
Yeah.
the overhead shot was so cool. It was just like boxes and boxes of the stuff from Homecoming.
Yeah.
And what he finds is, this basically her record saying she was dismissed from the facility on the same day Walter was.
Yeah.
And that he was dismissed because he was violent. And so then it starts to be like,
I was like, oh, he beat her up.
yes, is that what you
I
thought?
said, yeah.
Me too.
He got angry. He hit her.
I was like, I can't wait to see that.
She got hospitalized, yeah.
Interesting.
Like how that unfolds.
Because it says that she went to the hospital and he was dismissed
Yeah.
for violence. And I was like, oh, that's going to be so ugly.
so
Same
bad.
thought.
So that was your initial thoughts that he hurt her. Yeah. I thought maybe it was the opposite. I thought maybe she did something like what happened to Schreier with just like kicking him out and ousting. I thought she did something to him and was trying to cover it up by saying it was a violent.
But then why would
outburst.
she be fired on the same day?
I didn't think that far.
yeah.
I was just like,
Gut reaction.
because I was like, it has to be something Mr. Robot-esque where it's like
No, my
totally
like super
mixed.
spy instincts kicked in and I was like, okay.
What
These
happened?
are I'm like running scenarios in my head. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah,
And then
what
of course
happened?
I like binged the rest of it from there. I couldn't stop. Episode 3 was like the turning point. I feel like I watched 1. I was like, I watched 2, and I was like, I hate this aspect ratio thing. I really hate it. Then I watched 3, and I was like, wait, so what happens next after that?
Yeah.
I was all in.
I felt like Thomas, though, it will say that I felt like he was the most complex character because he was just like, I was rooting for him to figure out what happened because he is me in the show. Like, we got to get to the root of the issue here.
Totally.
And then him calling, like, Walter's mom and things like that. It was just, yeah.
And nobody wanted to help him.
Yeah, and Walter's mom,
Really fighting against the current.
And Walter's mom was even like, Heidi said she didn't remember anything, like, click, because that, and then you're like, where's Walter?
Yeah.
And also, you know, lastly, we kind of end on him seeing those records of like, oh, this May 15th date means something. And like, we'll remember that as viewers. And then also, Colin wants to send Schreier back to civilian life sooner than he should because he talks about the dosage he's been given. And like, you know, and Heidi's kind of like, I don't know that he'll be okay. And Colin's like, he's a problem, get him out.
I thought that was irresponsible too because she goes on to talk about how it'll cause hallucinations and mood swings and all these other issues, and he's like, I don't care. That's not our. Just get him out.
Yeah.
How can you say double the dosage on somebody and then be like, get out without any kind of withdrawal? And she even said he was going to go through like all the symptoms of like addict withdrawal, which is it's crazy.
And Colin's like,
That's why
So
I don't
lost.
like Colin.
Never did.
I know, but so good to watch, Bobby
So
Cannavale. So any last thoughts on these first 3 episodes before we get into some other stuff? Anybody else wanna say anything?
Why was Miss Trotter there? I mean, because she was there.
Which one?
Like, there's like a foreshadow to Mrs. Trotter, the sleeping lady in the diner.
Oh.
Anybody know?
Right.
I don't know.
No
I don't
No
know what the
purpose?
purpose
No
was
idea.
that.
All right.
Anyone in the live chat want to comment on
Yeah,
Mrs. Trotter?
Mrs. Trotter.
Like,
oh,
why?
That was, yeah.
I think she was just a little anecdote. I
Yeah,
think she was
okay.
just the way Anthony was. I think it just,
Yeah.
you know, we don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah.
But she definitely comes back. She's definitely something we see multiple times, and sometimes when you're making film and TV, there's like a rule of 3. So I can't remember if we saw her 3 times, and that was just something that Sam Esmail wanted to put in. But if anyone at home wants to comment on Mrs. Trotter,
Shout out to you, Mrs. Trotter.
yeah. Anybody else have any last minute thoughts before we move on?
Excited to talk about the next
Couple
chunk.
episodes. Awesome. All right, well, we are going to get into our special segment called Social Hero that Archie over here is going to talk about. So take it away, Archie.
Yeah, well, given that Homecoming highlights a social worker with direct focus being those of veterans, we wanted to take the time out to shed light on real life workers, social workers, helping those that have served the nation. So today we would like to applaud Dr. Elizabeth J. Clark, CEO, leader, author, speaker. Round of applause to you.
Yay!
Right? Yeah. Because she served as executive director of the National Association of Social Workers in the United States. And Dr. Clark, she conducted research and has published in areas such as, social work workforce and also social work policy, as well as clinical illness and loss and hope and survivorship, which is amazing. And majority of us know that we're aware that soldiers come home from wars with like grievance that they share, and that it's always been a thing for warriors throughout history. But Dr. Clark, she believes that in addition to the invisible wounds such as PTSD and TBI, which is traumatic brain injury, which affects approximately 1 in 6 of our troops returning from Iraq and Afghanistan, just to name a few, service members and veterans have heightened risk of substance abuse and unemployment, homelessness, and suicide. So it does go beyond just those mental illnesses that they come back with. So she continues to work diligently to try to end that stigma, and she believes that the profession is absolutely necessary to the healthy functioning of society. So she has taken her passion on the road as well to share the light of why she does what she does and to help fight and come together and combat that whole problem and stigma. So she deserves appreciation and love across the board today.
Yes, she does. Thank you, Elizabeth. My sister's actually a social worker for veterans, so it's very
that's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool, and she always shares just these amazing stories on how touched she is by them and their stories.
You should
and
ask your sister if we should do a segment on her.
She needs to
That'd be
come
really
on.
Great.
well, she's in Indiana, but
Okay, we're
Yeah.
going to talk to her.
yeah. But I want to thank all the social workers out there who are doing amazing work with vets, and of course to all those men and women who have served us. We thank you all very much. So Heather has some news and gossip for us.
Yes.
AfterBuzz TV News.
I love that. So I am part of the SAG nominating committee this year.
Woo!
And before I knew that I was going to be on this panel, I was sent a package that looks like this. There's a picture there. It looks like a manila kind of folder, and on it says, familiarize yourself with civilian life in a monitored environment.
Is that the slogan of Homecoming?
I don't know, maybe.
My first thought was, wow, that sounds
yeah.
like the Truman Show.
Yeah, exactly. So it actually came in this like black bag that was wrapped in tape that said like open at your own risk or something like that. I was like,
cool.
what is this? I had no idea what it was. So anyways, inside there was this little package. It says Walter Cruz and it's a disc. So kind of an homage to, like his file, which is really cool. And it's the Homecoming series, which is awesome. And then inside, it just has a lot of pictures and has the screenplay
hold
in
it,
there.
please?
Yeah.
You can show- here.
So just
that's cool.
really cool packaging. Just has a lot of awesome content in there. That
awesome.
we see throughout the series. So I thought that was kind of fun to share. And this huge poster of the pineapple.
I know.
Quite funny. So
Schreier did not like that pineapple.
No.
He was-
That sent him down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
That is
He's
cool,
like,
though.
"What's
They
up
do
with the
have
pineapple?"
like actual excerpts of the script.
Oh,
You can
that's
see it
great.
here.
It looks
with
awesome.
the photos. I don't know if you guys do close up.
And
Yeah, so-
congrats to Heather on being on that committee.
Yeah.
I gotta vote. So Homecoming's definitely on my list.
Oh, yay. Yes.
And then next, I watched this interview on YouTube. It's called Joe Blow Celebrity Interviews, and it was with Julia and Shay. Is that
Shay?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, anyways, it was talking about her first time leading a television series, and she fell in love with the podcast, found out that Sam had as well, and they kind of became instant friends. And they FaceTimed, they talked about the show, they just gossiped a lot, and he's like, would you want to play Heidi? And she said she had 3 stipulations in order to do it. She said it has to film in LA. She wanted all the scripts ahead of time, and he needed to direct every episode. So she said that he was like, I'll get back to you on that. So, and obviously it all worked out.
Yeah, I'm sure he's like,
Well, it's kind
that'd be
of
great.
because they did it kind of like a TV show because it is more like a limited series. It runs
Yeah.
more like a mini series or a
Definitely.
limited
Yeah.
series than it does in your typical TV. And filming it on like Amazon, Netflix, and Hulu, like those 3 platforms let these shows film like a film.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
you
So
are
great.
going away for a few months making it. So it's like Julia Roberts on TV light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? 'Cause
yeah.
It's not like real TV.
Well,
Like
she hasn't. I mean, besides like she was on Friends for an episode that one of my favorites with had a lot of scenes with Chandler, and then she did the TV movie The Normal Heart on HBO, and so that she hasn't. And then there was like a guest star on Murphy Brown, back in the day. So, but this is true that obviously it's her first leading
Yeah.
role, but I agree that it's more
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of
more
like
television-y.
Big Little Lies-esque,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So and then another thing that I really liked about this were the end credits.
Loved them.
Yes.
And how we're just
I'm
left
stealing
there,
that idea
right?
for my first feature
Yes.
film, Sam Esmail.
So he did an interview with Vulture magazine, and he talks about why he did this. He says, look, part of me is also playing with the form of this binge modeling because I knew it would all be dropped on Amazon on one day. Everyone's inclination is to hit next as soon as the credits start rolling. I didn't want that for this show. I wanted that feeling that this is going to wash over you, that something's bubbling and it's growing, and that's part of the reason why we did that. And I was like, yes, because it did.
love that.
I didn't click next. I waited and I watched and I was like, what's
I know. I was like, is
coming?
something gonna pop in there?
Yeah.
On the screen?
So
Yeah.
I really loved this effect, and he thought it was very subliminal and just dreamlike, and he loved these long takes. And I thought this was just a genius idea and really
Yeah.
added to the show.
totally.
I literally have dreamlike music, and then I had the credits. I put like nice touch.
Yeah.
in my notes because I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
The music was intense. Because
Oh,
at
yeah.
one point
It
I
was.
listened on headphones on my laptop and it was just so heavy. I literally screamed like a 3-year-old girl at one point. And it was coming in one ear and then the other. It was a lot going on musically if you can pay attention to that.
Well, he took a lot of scores from Hitchcock films and from the movie Carrie, because, and homage to Sissy Spacek for being in the show, but he takes a lot of scores from other influences.
He said that that's where his budget went. He's like, I don't have dragons, I don't have all this other stuff, I have music. Yeah. I was
He
like,
does.
oh, cool, yeah.
And it works because you see those horror thriller tropes from back in the 70s, and where the camera's like dun dun dun, and like pay attention to this thing that's mysterious and happening. Well, I think Sam Esmail did a wonderful job on this show. I absolutely love all of the cinematography. I think that we have lots more to get into. Next week, we will be going through episodes 4 through 6 to kind of get to the meat of everything that is starting to come out and unfold before we get to our last part in the 3-part series that we're going to do, revealing everything that happens in the end and what could possibly happen next. So please stay tuned and come back and see us every Sunday at 5 o'clock. And where can we find you all on social media, Archie?
You can find me, Archie J, at Archie J Speaks on every social media platform. Yeah. Nice. J-A-Y,
All right, guys, I'm Carolina Benetti, and you can find me on Twitter at Carolina Benetti, and you can find me on Instagram at LenaBean113.
I'm Heather Geisler. You can find me at 500 Days of Heather on Instagram and at Heather Geisler on Twitter.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at LesliePowers15 and on Instagram at LMPowers15. And we thank you all so much. Please join us in the live chat next Sunday at 5, and we'll see you there.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, they're buzzers.
Woo! Our founder, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.